So talk about how you transition children from the intro to centers and why do you do it that way?
Yeah, so I've had like a few different methods I've used to transition children from the intro into the actual centers. And you know, it changes depending on the context. In previous years when I've had smaller class sizes, it was very much like everyone stand up, walk to your centers. With this size class, you know, we have 22 students in a gen ed class. You know, I tried that out and I was like, all right, having 9 kids bum rush, you know, the one center they want to go to, maybe not the safest way to transition over to centers. So that's when we introduced the choice board that you saw. And the idea there is that we really want kids to start building independence around transitioning to and from centers. I only require them to make their first choice on the choice board, and that just sort of gives them a more visual representation of when a center is full versus, you know, when they could still go there. It's also great because it acts as sort of like a reminder of what is available. I found very often the last center that I'll talk about is the one that kids go to first. So having sort of the visual representation right there, it just is a little, you know, sparks little reminders for them.
And how does your paraprofessional act as a support during intro centers? But during intro, how does she help out with that?
Yeah, my paraprofessional, we work very closely together. Generally what we'll do is at the beginning of the week, we'll look through the plans for that week. So she kind of knows what's coming up. What I'll do is I'll set up a center initially, how I have it designed and imagined, and then the next time that center is being set up, my para can go ahead and set that up. During the actual intro, you know, her role could be anywhere from supporting a student who might need a little extra support to attend to the actual intro. Her role might also be to, you know, set up, you know, the paints for a certain center, you know, what have you. We keep it pretty fluid, just depending on, you know, what are the needs today. Yeah, we just kind of keep it fluid.
And how do you decide which centers you're going to introduce or model?
Yeah, so I'll usually make sure that the centers make sense in the context of like the stories that we're reading, or maybe a let's find out about it that came previously the day before. I follow the curriculum guide pretty closely because things seem to be logically laid out in that guide. So for example, yesterday we read The Lion and the Little Red Bird. Today we were starting our mural in the Lion's Cave. You know, I wouldn't have introduced the idea of a mural before we read the story. So, you know, just kind of keeping things logically where they would go.
Mm-hmm. And what about if there's a new material or, say, a new technique or something that they're going to use? How do you introduce that?
Yeah, so if it's like a new material or a new technique, generally what I'll actually do is I'll do the activity myself, which sounds a little odd, like, you know, a grown man sitting and doing coloring. But what that kind of helps me do is like identify, okay, what could be the sticking points here? What could be the, what might I have to go into a little more depth in during the intro?
You need like a tester or 4-year-old to just be like, here.
Right, exactly. An example would be like the first day that we did color mixing over at the water table, or at the discovery table. You know, I realized that having just 3 colors available might cause some issues with sharing and passing off. So during the intro, we did some role play, and we had, you know, I was pretending to be a child, one of the other kids was pretending to be themselves, and I was like, okay, you know, I really want that yellow bottle that you have. What could I say? You know, just sort of like front-loading those things.